Hi Denise. Okay, I'm going to try and talk a little fast because we have to make this video in under 10 minutes for it to be able to post to YouTube. And also I don't know how long my voice will be able to hold out for this. So for the garden, we're starting with the seeds. We're going to grow them indoors. Here's the setup I have. Come back far so you can see everything. You're going to put seeds in these rock wool cubes. You buy these in a sheet. It looks like this. You get them possibly at Walmart or for sure at a place that specializes in hydroponic gardens. And what you're going to do is make a solution for the food for them. That you have to buy at a place that sells supplies for hydroponic gardens. This is what I use. You can buy it off the internet also. Be sure and read the directions on how to dilute it properly for seedlings because it's different than it is for a plant. If you put it too strong, the seedlings will burn. So you soak these cubes in the solution, and then you take each cube and poke a hole in the top with a pencil. Put about 3 seeds in each one, about 1/4 inch deep. And then what you need to do is water them 4 times a day, and you need to have light for 18 hours a day. That's for them to grow the fastest. Now you can do this manually, of course, just by coming outside and watering them, or you can make an automated system like I did here. What I have is I just got a Tupperware tray, and this little Tupperware container here has a very small fish pump inside it, very weak. It goes up through a 3/8 tube, and if you look over here, I just have some old timers. These are like $5 a piece at Lowe's. I have it set up to water for 30 minutes 4 times a day. The other timer's for the lights. It turns them on like at 6 a.m. and off at 10 p.m. So the way this waters up here is when the timer goes on, the water comes to the top, it fills this up. Notice I drilled a little hole in the side here for water to overflow because the water will pump in faster than this will hold for 30 minutes. So during the 30 minutes this fills up and starts pouring out of this, and in this container you said you'd have a hole in the bottom. So it just drips back into the container. After the 30 minutes is up, there's a very small hole drilled in the bottom. This you can't see. It's just like maybe a 3/16 drill. So when the water pump shuts off, the water slowly seeps to the bottom and this empties out. So it fills up for about 30 minutes and probably takes another 10 minutes for it to drain back out. And it does that 4 times a day. Then the lights I have on these are called full spectrum lights. That means it gives all the different UV values so to imitate sunlight. And they're not very expensive. I bought this rig here that holds the lights for I think like $20 at Lowe's, and the lights probably cost me another 15 bucks. It's important to have the lights not too far from the plants, like 3 to 4 inches. If it's too high, then your plants will grow real spindly, and you don't want that. You want very thick stems. And you'll transport them or transplant them once you have about 3 or 4 leaves on each plant, and most importantly at the bottom you'll see the roots sticking out of the rock wool. Once the roots are sticking out and you have 3 or 4 leaves, then it's time to take them outside. What I did for this was I bought these cheap plastic cups. You can buy containers especially for these at a plant store, but they're again more expensive. These cups are 2 cents a piece. I took a soldering iron and just melted holes all through the bottom portion and on the bottom. I would suggest doing it differently. This season I'm going to get new cups, and I'm going to put holes in the bottom only, not on the sides. The reason for that is sometimes you need to pull them out of the PVC to check on the roots. And I found that when the roots grow out the side, sometimes it's hard to pull them out of the hole because the roots get wider and wider. So by putting them only in the bottom, the roots are contained in the hole of the PVC. So we take the rock wool with a plant and you stick it down in the bottom like so, and then you're going to pour pea gravel across the top of it so the cup is about half full. The pea gravel I bought like a 20-pound bag at Lowe's for about I think $4 or $5. It's very cheap. Very important to rinse it first because it'll have lye and other chemicals on it when you first buy it that'll kill the plants. So, again, this tank here gets filled up with your food solution, and I fill this up and it runs for weeks without having to change it because these plants use very, very little water like this. Okay, now we're going to walk outside and show you how they grow outside. Here first. Okay, you showed this. Okay, here's what you saw before where I'm growing the plants. To show you how this should look, here's an old tube from the first ones I made. I drilled a 2.5 inch round hole in this, and that size was determined by the cup that I bought. When I put the cup in, you want the cup actually to come about halfway into the tube. Okay, these aren't the original cups I bought. These, when I ran out of cups, I went to buy more and I couldn't find the exact same size. So you see these go all the way down. This will work if you have not a long tube. Point over here. You see the ones that I have 45 holes. If I just had one of those pipes with just 15, then I could get away with the cup going all the way to the bottom. But if you have as many as I do, what will happen is each additional cup restricts more flow of the water, so you have a damming effect. In the first tube and a half or so, the tubes will flood all the way up to the top, and you don't want that. You want the water constantly moving. So find the cups that you can get easily to store, and get a hole saw to cut the size that will allow this plant holder cup to go in about halfway down. And you can see how with this setup, that's why it's very important that the roots come out the bottom of the rock wool before you transplant them. If they're not coming out the bottom, they're not going to reach the water flowing inside. Now, here's what I do. When the plants are brand new in the cups, the roots don't stick out a lot. So I put the new ones. Follow me over here. Here's where the water supply feeds in right here. I put the newest plants on this first row, and then I'll put a cup or something else, maybe a stone or something, down here that goes almost all the way to the bottom, and that causes this water to dam up a little bit. So that way I know the roots are always wet, because they have to always be wet. Once the roots are sticking out a little bit, then I can move into the other two. And so this is my newer plants, and these are my more mature plants in the next ones. And you're always alternating them anyways, because you're eating the plants as you go. And that way I can keep a little bit more water in these pipes than in these pipes. When you buy a pump for this, you want the flow, ideally, I've read, is supposed to be 1 liter per minute. So I've adjusted the flow so the water comes in here. It's a serpentine arrangement. It comes down, goes back and forth, and into the fish tank down here. Then you get yourself one of those 2-liter Coke bottles and a timer, and just measure it. And you should have the bottle, if it's a 2-liter bottle, you want it half full in 1 minute's time. If it's giving out more water than that, then you want to turn back your water supply. If it's not giving enough, of course, you want to increase your water supply so you have about that much flow. That is supposed to be the optimum rate. Now, where's my cup? Okay, this arrangement here, these pipes, works good for plants that you're going to eat the plant itself, not a fruit-bearing plant. A fruit-bearing plant, such as a tomato or a pepper, grow massive roots, and they'll end up clogging these. That's what I had problems with my first summer, especially the tomato plants. They'll get roots 3 to 4 feet long. So that won't work here. Here's the solution I came up with for growing fruit-bearing plants. The fruit-bearing plants get planted in these coffee cans. Very cheap and easy to do. Drill the hole in the lid. The plant goes in like so. Now let me show you how this works. This tube here comes back from our water supply, and it gravity feeds into here. So we have our cup like so, and the water just slowly drips into here. Now the way it comes out, you see this white fitting right here? That's one piece. That's an elbow I got at Lowe's. I drilled a hole in the side just big enough for these threads to go through it. And then as I thread it through, I squirted some water sealing, I can't think of the word, like silicone, there we go. Some silicone around it to seal it. And then this tube coming out of here, I bought this based on the size that this tube would fit snugly in this. This is a tube from this underground watering system. On the other side, notice I have a much bigger tube, the diameter of it. That's very important. And if you can see, I don't know if it shows on the camera or not, but there's actually 2 of these tubes here. The reason for that is the bigger tube wouldn't fit snugly in this. So I had to step it up in 2 sizes, one tube inside of another. So what happens is the water drips in. When it fills up past this point, water starts coming out, and then it forms a siphon. Because this tube is so much bigger, it will siphon out much faster than the water being gravity fed comes in there. So it takes something like a half an hour for this to fill up and about 5 minutes to drain out. So what happens is when water comes out of this tube up here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, this fills up every 30 minutes, then empties out every 5 minutes right after that. So filling up with water obviously feeds it with water. When it drains out, it sucks air into the roots, so the roots get oxygenated. The roots get contained in here very nicely. Only once or twice last summer did I have some root problems clogging this, and I just pulled the lid off and took some scissors and trimmed the roots a little bit around this, and then it worked fine again. Now the other problem I have with this here, my filter system is not a perfect system. So little bits of fish waste come back through the lines. Now over here again, you see this is a 1/2-inch line, and so nothing gets clogged, and that fish waste is very tiny. But back over here, using these drip feeders, you see its opening is very small. So once in a while, this will get clogged up with fish waste. And because the hose is black, I don't see when water is not running. And I would know because the plant leaves will start to wilt, and I pull it out and I see, oh, no water. It's easy to fix. I just turn it around and then blow air in it real hard. It dislodges the waste in here and it moves around and comes back out again. But the problem I have after that is when this is filled with gravel, I can't stick it back in here easily. So this season what I'm going to do is buy me some very large straws, like a 3/8 inch diameter or a 1/2 inch, maybe even like a little thin copper pipe, but something stiff. Put it all the way to the bottom before I put the gravel in when I first plant it. And then this tube will go inside that tube. So when I want to pull this out and check it, I can just stick it right back in the tube, and that makes it very easy to do. Now we'll go over to our filter. Losing my voice. The filter is just this 5-gallon paint bucket. I put 2 pieces of acrylic in here, and this holds some of this filtering material. Like you see, like this is the same stuff you use in an air filter in a house. So this first plank has holes drilled all through it. So as the water comes in on this side, then it goes through the holes, which forces it through the filter material over here. Then it spills over the top of this, and this spills back into the tubes that feed the plant. So it's simply, again, gravity fed. Now, this is the top that usually goes on here, so the water would go in here and come back up. The reason for this shooting up is I don't want turbulence on the bottom, because I want the fish waste to settle on the bottom. So the water comes in. Picture this tank is full, so this is emptying into a water tank, or into the middle of the tank, and the fish waste will slowly settle to the bottom because there's no turbulence down here. And then it moves sideways through the holes in that plastic I just described a minute ago. And then what happens is once a week or so I can just turn this valve here, which is right next to the bottom, and it flushes out everything that's on the bottom of the tank. And I just put a bucket down here and it takes out water and the fish waste. And then maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks you just pull out this filter, and then you want to wring it out gently, but very gently, because it'll have healthy bacteria that it needs in order to keep the fish healthy. And you don't want to lose that bacteria, so don't take it out and hose it off. Just wring it a little bit and then stick it back in there. And this has to be covered normally so that way there's no light getting in. Now when you first put this system together, your tank will get really dirty for the first couple of weeks until this bacteria starts to grow and will filter the water. Don't worry about it. After a couple of weeks it'll start cleaning itself up. Inside here, this is a 110-gallon tank I bought. I got this at a feed store. I guess they're meant like for ranches and things. It's very durable rubber, and I think it was like $50 or $60. On the side it just had a brass fitting for a plug. Since I plan to empty it on time, I put a little valve on here just to be able to empty it when I want to. Now you notice the tub is somewhat circular. I got it that way also on purpose because I have a current going in this. In here I have a pump. I think it's a 600 gallon per hour. It's the little black box you see over here. And point it up a little bit, Josh. This right over here is a venturi, which I'll explain in a minute. Air comes out of this and it forces a circular pattern of water flow in here. So when that happens, none of the fish waste will end up on the sides because there's current around the outside of this. The fish waste kind of gets pulled to the center. This piece right here is the pickup for the pump. And you see how it faces down? You probably can't see it, so let me describe on this piece. This goes down, and I took a little tool, it's kind of like a Dremel, and I made little ridges going around it. So if you were to turn it up this way, it would look like the top of a castle wall. How you see those ridges on top of a castle? So when I put that back down, each one was only about an 1/8 inch high of a ridge. So that just allows just a little space in there, so it creates a suction, and the fish waste will get sucked in there, but nothing else. So because the water flows in a circle, the waste won't settle out here. It settles in the middle and gets sucked up, and I found that doing it this way keeps the tank crystal clean like that. Now, this venturi I was explaining over here a minute ago, if you can see this right here, what this is, the plastic hose back here goes up to the top, and it comes right to the center of this T-fitting. So water coming up through here, being pumped up to the filter, some of it will come over here because water follows the path of least resistance. When it comes through here, it creates a suction and pulls air through there, and that forms makes a whole lot of bubbles come out of there, and that oxygenates the water so the fish stay alive. You could just buy an air stone to put in here, but that's just more equipment. This for free or for the same price of the water pump also aerates the water. If you want to see more on how to build that, it's very simple. It's just a T-fitting with a hose stuck in it. You can go to YouTube and do a search on venturis, and you'll probably find a diagram of one. It was very simple to put together. And then the screen I put across the top because the fish will tend to jump out sometimes. I found a couple of dead fish out here last summer because they jumped out of the tank. I don't remember if I just said this or not, but the wood up here is to keep out sunlight. Without that, if you don't cover the majority of the tank from sunlight, you'll have a lot of algae growing in here. So if your tank, excuse me, going to go somewhere like in the patio where the direct sunlight doesn't hit it, you won't need a wood cover or a solid cover. Again, that's only to keep sunlight out. You just need a screen or something so the fish don't jump out. Something else I didn't show you here. You could fill this up with just a hose, but for like 10 bucks, show it over there. That's a float valve. I just drilled a hole in the side and stuck it in. I'll show you the outside over there now on the other side. It's right there. You see where the hose plugs into this. So that means once I turn it on at the beginning of the season, I never have to turn it off again. I never have to fill it with water. As water slowly gets used up by the plants or evaporates, it just fills it up constantly. So the only maintenance for this is to clean that filter once every week or two and put a little handful of fish food in each day. This size of tank I chose, 110 gallons, was based on some calculations I did on the number of plants that I'm growing. I figured about 5 fish in here, each about this long, should be fine. I put 15 fish in last time, but they were really small ones, like about 1 to 2 inches a piece. But something along those lines will work for this much. If you want to do a smaller setup, give me a call. We can try and estimate how big of a tank to get. But you can go a bigger tank easily, but you don't want to go too much of a smaller tank for what you're going to do. That's pretty much it. I think I'm sure you got some questions, but that pretty much. Oh, the other thing here, back to these tubes. These are 10-foot tubes, because that's how you buy them at the store. And I have about a 1/4 inch drop between this side and this side. So this is the highest point, and this drops down a 1/4 inch. This drops down just a tad more because it has to go around the corner, and again a 1/4 inch down at that end. And again, you just want to keep the water just moving slightly all the time in this. So anyways, I'm going to post this on YouTube and send you a link for it, and then you can tell me about any questions you might have about it. And hope you enjoy it. It's been very easy to do. Well, I think this is very simple. I know very little about plants, and I was able to do this easily. Oh, and by the way, the easiest thing to grow is lettuce. Lettuce, I think anybody can do it no matter what. Some of the other plants are harder, but you'll figure that out as you go. And talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.